Hey, Lashpreneurs, happy Monday to you. Before we get into today's episode, which is really going to be something that I don't know that I've talked to you guys through or talked about it publicly, and how I handle fears that come up and what we call intrusive thoughts that just love to just pop into your head, usually in the middle of the night, and how I work through that and how I've kind of trained my brain to work around that really quickly so that I don't get stuck in an anxious cycle. But before we get into today's episode, I did want to talk about something that I haven't done in a couple of years, and that is based on the requests and the amount of requests that we're having, I am opening up three. That's it. Three one-on-one coaching spots. What? Now, this is not for 99% of you. I will say that. This is not just business coaching, because that is a component of it. I can't help but love on the business. This is really more so life transformation coaching. And I don't say that as like clickbait. I say that because that is ultimately what I get the feedback from clients and students that I work with, that really where the massive help and support that at least I can offer and the team can offer is not just changing how you look at your business, but changing how you look at your life, changing how you show up in your life. And today's episode is very much going to be a sprinkling of the one tool of many that I use that has helped me overcome shutting my business down and having it be this thing that was like this 100-pound weight on my back or 1,000-pound gorilla or whatever the metaphor is, that I didn't enjoy, that I created so much complexity in my business and I had lots of sales, but then it was going out the door by way of like expenses and this codependency on the business and trying to have my success be something external to me. And really what I work, especially in the mastermind with, is really getting to the root of performance and where people get stuck and where they have blocks. And it's not just business. I don't know if you guys have heard me say this before, but something I often say is that women are like spaghetti and men are like waffles. Women, our personal and our professional lives are all intertwined. When stuff is heavy and hard personally, it affects how we show up in our business. Men have a much easier time, from my understanding, of compartmentalizing. Like they leave work at work, and then when they come home, they have home stuff. And it's like they don't necessarily have that integration and mixing of everything, whereas women, it's our life, right? And we look at everything in totality, and it's not just this is just one aspect of my life. It's like we all tend to like just mix it all up. And so the type of one-on-one clients that I'm looking for to work with for a 3-month period to start, right, it's kind of us testing each other out before we look at maybe something more long-term, are those that know that they are getting in their own way and they just can't quite get past it, that they know there's something more for them out there, but they don't know what that is yet. If you don't have clarity on what that is, that's okay. In fact, the more you know you're being called or pushed towards something, you just don't know what it is, the better, because it's just a lot of clearing out things that are obstacles and fears and limiting beliefs that I really excel at supporting in somebody moving and striving forward. So this is not just specific to business. You don't have to have a certain revenue level or anything really having to do with some sort of metric or level of success in your business. However, I will say, because this is a time commitment on my end and you are getting one-on-one coaching with me, it is at the highest price point that we have as an offer available, because that's how much I want to show up and support you. And I need to be able to really work closely with you to help you transform, to get to whatever goal or result or transformation you want to have. So I'm going to be very transparent about the pricing of this, because I don't want to waste your time by trying to set up a call where we kind of talk through this and see if it's a good fit and see if it's something that you're interested in, or if it makes sense for us to work together, if it's not even feasible for you. And there are some of you listening where you don't care how much it costs, you're going to find a way to do it. And look, I can help you figure that out. Obviously, I do business coaching, like trying to find opportunities to make money for an investment into yourself that's going to help you make a heck of a lot more money over the next few years. Not a hard challenge for me. So in full disclosure, it is going to be a 3-month period to start with us working together. That's what the commitment is to start. If you want to continue working on it, we can absolutely talk about that. I'm only opening up 3 spots. The total investment for that coaching, and we can talk about the logistics. We're going to have a free call. You and I are going to have a free coaching call where you can kind of get through some of the things that are blocking you so you can see what that experience is going to be like. is $7,500 for 3 months. So I know that's going to eliminate a lot of you. Some of you are like, "Ooh, that's stiff," but I trust Tara, and I actually know that if I don't do this, I don't know what's next, or I'm afraid of what's going to happen. Because when you look at the year as a whole, and much less the types of transformation that I'm talking about that is going to change the trajectory of your life, and again, I don't say that lightly. It's not a brag moment for me. It is because I have done these things. When I shifted, when I shut the business down and I shifted to really working on my mindset, my perspective shifting, learning tools like inner child work, breath work, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a lot of different tools that I've developed over the years that I use in my coaching. I want to go all in on 3 people and teach you how to move past so many of the things in life that are holding you back, so many fears that are keeping you stuck in a miserable situation where your enjoyment of life is just passing you by, where you're unable to be present with your friends, your family, your children, your business, your clients, whatever it is. So I am not keeping this exclusive to people who own a business. So if you're listening to this and that isn't you, I really want to go deep on people who want to transform their life and need tools and support and accountability and coaching to get there. So if you are at all interested, and yes, it's for you, yes, you want to hear more about it, and maybe the money thing is like a no-brainer for you, or maybe it's just, I got to figure that out and I need some support, but I know this is a hell yes for me. If it's a full body hell yes, and you just need to figure out how it's going to work, you're my person. Let's jump on a call. Go ahead and DM me one-on-one coaching on Instagram, or you can email me hi@thelashpreneur with I'm interested in the one-on-one coaching Tara talked about on the podcast, and we will set up an opportunity for you and I to have a free coaching session. And again, we're gonna make sure you're qualified for it, because again, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want my time wasted either. So we will have a conversation. But if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, the investment for it. We're not going to just be giving away coaching sessions here and there. I want to be able to connect with you and understand what I can do possibly to work with you and support you. So go ahead, DM me on Instagram, one-on-one coaching. Let's have a conversation, or you can email me hi@thelashpreneur.com. We'll put it in the show notes too, so you can always refer back to that. So let's get back to today's episode, where you'll kind of get a little tool that I use anytime I have a scary thought come up. And this has been over time something that I have trained my brain to do. It doesn't happen in an instant. It is something that I want you to think of your brain. You have 2 different parts of your brain. You have your conscious brain, which is the one listening in. That's the one that's awake and alert and aware of everything that's going on. And it's the one that has the limiting beliefs. And it's the one that has the experience of your life in the current moment. We also have another part of our brain called the subconscious or unconscious. Potato. Either those words will be used interchangeably, but for now we'll call it the subconscious. That is what is your software programming, if you will, of the computer that is your brain. It is all the coding of the decades of life that you have lived, where a lot of your experience and your life story is stored that you're not present to. You are not aware of what's in your subconscious programming. However, the subconscious programming is what is driving your life. Everything that you see in your conscious brain is because your subconscious brain said, pay attention to that. Stay away from that. This is good. This is bad. It is where all of who you are as a person and your accumulation of years and years and decades and all the way back to childhood, all of that stuff is stored. And when you are a self-aware person or an emotionally intelligent person, but more so self-aware than anything, it's because you have an awareness that there is something else that feeds the thoughts that come into your brain. And this is where I geek the F out. I'm trying to keep it kid friendly here. This is where I have spent the last 2 years researching, diving into, learning, becoming a student of how the brain works chemically, how thoughts work, how mental health works, how all of this works to then create the experience of your life. And even one step further of how to have an influence and impact over what's happening in my brain to be able to have a better experience in life. I am the happiest, most content, most satisfied in my life that I've ever been. And most of y'all will kind of question and doubt that that's possible. I know I would have back in the day before this was true. Why is that? Because you probably label that as if I don't have problems and that if I don't have struggles. No, 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 my friend. The amount of problems and challenges that I face now is probably more than I ever have. However, I don't let those problems and challenges ruin my internal state of feeling content and satisfied in my life. There is constant perspective shifting and different ways to look at things that I am doing that I've trained my brain to do so that my general baseline experience in life is one of satisfaction and of peace, right? I have been through very traumatic situations, very, very difficult hardships. I am currently in a very, very challenging time. And yet I can still come to identifying and training my brain to look at the areas and things in my life that are so very rewarding to me. And I can look at it from a perspective of everything is happening for me and not to me. And this has been taken me about 3 to 4 years of working on this. Actually, I'd say 3 years. It kind of started right before the pandemic happened that I started doing this work. And then the pandemic really had me diving deep into this stuff. So one of the tools that I'm going to share with you today, and again, if we work one-on-one coaching, we are going to go deep dive. You are going to be consistently held accountable to shifting your perspectives and your beliefs. And I'm going to give you a lot more tools to learn to do that on your own so that you don't necessarily have to rely on anybody else outside of you to do that. But it does take somebody coming in and being like, why are you looking at it this way? So one of the tools, specifically, I'm going to give you a tool around when fear around money pops into your head. And I'll give you an example of what I experienced recently. And this is where I was like, oh, I should talk about this on the podcast. Woke up early morning. It's probably like 6:30 in the morning, right? So your defenses aren't there, even if you have a lot of tools mentally. Like when you're first waking up, you are pure, just whoever you are in that moment before you start to put on your mask and your stress and whatever. Hadn't even picked up my phone yet. That's like when this thought came in. I woke up, I kind of sensed what time of month it was, like the beginning of the month. And I had a panic moment of like, we have not met our sales goal for this month. So next month, it means that we're going to drop by this amount. And then I freaked out about like, how am I going to make payroll? Right? Like if we drop by that much, are we going to make payroll? What about the bills that we have? And like, how much is it? Like started doing all this ninja math in my head of like what the consequences would be if we didn't make our goals for this month. Now we had plenty of time left in the month to make up for our goals, right? And we were actively already working on reaching those goals. But for this month, at that moment in time, the first thing my brain thought in the morning was like, next month, what happens if we don't reach our goals? That is called anxiety, my friends. That is not living in the present moment. That is thinking about something that is 4 to 6 weeks away and freaking out that it's going to be the worst case scenario. Totally relatable, right? That is anxiety to a T, of worrying about stuff that is not in the present moment that may not even end up happening. So we're projecting the worst case scenario thinking. Why? Well, because our brain is trying to save us. It's trying to keep us safe. And so if we can have this illusion of control, which is not really actually control because you control nothing outside of you. If I have this illusion of if I freak out about it enough right now, and that sends hormones through my body, AKA cortisol, which is your stress hormone, it is your fight or flight response, then maybe if I do actions now, I can control a negative future outcome at some point in the future. That's really what, in a very simplified way, your brain is trying to do. It's trying to keep you safe. It's trying to keep you surviving. It is not a thriving perspective. It is a survival perspective. And I think of intrusive thoughts as fear-based survival perspective. And if you ever want to live outside of fear-based and survival living, then you have to retrain your brain to also look at how it can possibly thrive. Because your brain doesn't want to think about thriving. It needs to conserve resources just in case you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger or a woolly mammoth, right? We have very primitive monkey-minded brains is what it's called, your monkey mind. It goes back to survival mode because it needs to conserve your energy and your resources to be able to fight or flight or fawn or freeze or whatever your default survival mechanism is. So those of us that have anxiety, which is most of you, because you can tend to relate to other anxious people, we tend to have fear-based thinking because we're trying to control the scenario, our environment, everything, so that we don't have the worst case scenario happen. What we miss in that is that when we have this anxiety, fear-based thinking, it is our subconscious brain that is filtering in to our conscious brain fear-based worst case scenario things. And so our conscious brain is now looking for evidence and patterns happening in our external environment that the worst case is actually coming true. So for me, if I hadn't stopped myself from thinking those thoughts, and I'll give you the tool on how I did that, then I would have spent my whole day, maybe my whole week, maybe my whole month, maybe the whole year, maybe my lifetime trying to find evidence of worst case scenario happening and it matching my beliefs. That way I go, see, it actually happened. I was right. I should have done this, or that happened, or whatever. And so it would have been, in that particular situation, it would have been looking at how many sales we weren't getting. Even if we got 3 sales, it would have been focused, well, it wasn't the 7 that we had planned for. And, what about credit card debt and payments coming through and bank accounts going down? And I would have been looking for evidence to match my beliefs, which was fear-based thinking that the worst case scenario was going to happen. Your brain will identify evidence in your external world that matches your internal beliefs. I'm going to say that again. It is that powerful that you understand this about your brain. Your brain will find evidence that matches your internal beliefs. So when you start to see things that validate your negative or fear-based thinking, that is because you have trained your brain to do that subconsciously. This is not something that most people do intentionally. In fact, a lot of it happens in childhood when we're more susceptible to our environment and those that are in our life. So if you had a parent that always said that money is bad, or that money doesn't grow on trees, or that money is scarce, or that we never have enough money, or we can't afford that, those are beliefs that were programmed into your subconscious as a kid that you're not really aware of anymore as an adult. It's just part of your programming. It just runs the system. So the output that comes out into your beliefs is that money is scarce and you can't hold on to money and things are expensive and recession and inflation and pay and clients won't pay more because I wouldn't pay more. Like all of these things start coming out as expressions of this internal programming you have, this belief. And so part of what the work that I've been doing is really challenging the heck out of any thought that comes into my brain is, do I want to choose this belief? Am I intentionally choosing to carry this thought as truth? We have over 30,000 thoughts a day that come into our brain. Not all of those thoughts are true or fact. In fact, probably most of them aren't. However, what ends up happening is that we are creatures of habit. For the most part, we wake up around the same time, we have the same routine, we take the same path to work, we see the same people. Like, we don't have a whole lot of new stimuli in our environment on a day-to-day basis. Therefore, the things that are triggering the thoughts from the outside world are fairly consistent. So out of those 30,000 thoughts, we tend to have the same thoughts every single day. And over days and years and decades of the same thoughts happening, we just accept that repeated amount of thoughts as fact and truth. And we have been looking for evidence subconsciously of external evidence of matching our internal beliefs. Money is scarce. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money, things are expensive. Recession is a bad thing. And inflation means that prices go up, but our clients want to afford, like that just dominoes the belief that, yep, that is true. Yep, that is true. I have an internal belief. I find evidence in my external world, and that is true. So we take it and accept it as fact. This is the power of self-awareness when you realize you can control thinking your own thoughts. What? Now, because of your subconscious programming, you're going to have intrusive thoughts. You're just not aware that they're intrusive, or that you can actually go, I don't want to think that thought. This is the programming that I've been working on, reprogramming my brain. Intrusive thought comes into my brain. This one was like, oh shoot, if we don't make our sales goals, here's the spiral of shit that's going to happen. Sorry for the language. Spiral of shit that's going to happen over the next 6 weeks. causes panic in me, heart starts racing. Now I'm having an anxious feeling in my body based on a thought I had in my head. Now, over time and practice, I now question a negative thought the second it comes into my head. The second I'm aware of that thought does not feel good to me, and that's really my trigger, is when my body feels tense, when my body feels anxiety. There is an underlying thought or thoughts or beliefs that are driving my physical experience, because your brain first thinks a thought and then releases hormones into your body that gives you the felt experience of anxiety, tension, fear, right? Because your body is flooding hormones to your extremities and to your vital systems so that you can act, fight, flight, freeze, all that. That's kind of chemically what's happening in your body, but stimulates from a thought first. So I change the thought to then change the hormones that are released to then change my physical felt experience. Let's start there. So a thought comes in, scary thought. Oh my God, we're not going to make sales. I ask myself, is this a thought that I choose? Is this a thought that is serving me? 9 times out of 10, when it's triggering anxiety, no, it's not serving me. No, it is not a thought that is helping me. Who the frick cares what's going to happen in 6 weeks? I only live in the present moment. I can't control things that are 6 weeks from now that may or may not happen. There's a whole lot of life to live between now and 4 to 6 weeks from now. What is serving me in this moment? Well, when I'm first waking up in the morning, not being fearful is probably going to be a good way to start my day, right? Probably allowing myself to have some coffee and maybe being present with my kids before I start getting into problem solving the world's problems. So I choose a different thought. And I almost have to be obsessive about thinking the thought that I choose to finally drown out the negative thought. So negative thought pops in. I go, do I choose this? No. What do I choose? I choose to believe that I am capable of figuring out a sales problem, but not right now. I'm going to focus on me waking up and getting into a good headspace so I can creatively problem solve. Because problem solving in the same mindset and fear-based thinking that got you into the problem in the first place ain't going to get you a better solution. It's just going to keep recreating the same problem. So when I put myself into that, I'm going to allow myself to wake up, start my day, not be influenced by anything external, have my coffee, get my kids ready for school, whatever I need to do for me before I start solving all the problems that are outside of the 4 walls of the room I'm in. That's what I'm going to do. And so that intrusive thought may continue to come up for you. And you have to keep choosing the thought that serves you best repetitively. Over time, you will get better and it will get faster, and it'll almost be something that happens without your awareness really happening. That's the point that I'm at. Negative thought comes in. I feel it in my body. I'm like, whoa, whatever I'm thinking is not working for me. I choose a different thought, and that allows me to act in an intentional way rather than fear-based way or survival way, right? And that's why I am constantly choosing thoughts and feelings and beliefs that let me feel peace in my life, that let me feel the way I want to feel, even though externally things may not be where I want them to be. I can keep working towards that. But honestly, all of us are playing a game of wanting to feel something internally. We're just looking externally to give us that feeling. Relationships, this happens too. I want to feel loved by my partner. I want to feel supported by my partner. I want to feel safe with my partner, right? But if you don't feel that way first, it's going to be very hard for somebody external to you to ever give you that feeling consistently. Sure, every once in a while, like they may get you to feel amazing and loved, but that's not always going to be consistent because they're a human, right? And they're inconsistent. Humans are fluctuating, evolving, adapting beings. If you can work on controlling your internal state and choosing how you want to feel internally, what happens? Your external environment will match your beliefs. So if I believe my life is great, that I'm super grateful for the house that I have, that I can afford my house, that money is easy to come by, that my kids are happy, healthy, and safe, my internal beliefs, I will then start identifying evidence in my 3D world and my environment that matches those beliefs. But I got to change those beliefs first. I know this is a super deep dive on a lot of stuff, but I hope it's creating some awareness and some light bulbs for you to go, huh, well, what have I been feeding into my brain of limiting beliefs that I'm then matching in my external environment? I'll give you this example. And if you're not driving, you can do this example with me. I want you to look around your environment, wherever you're at, and I want you to identify everything that's black in the room. Kind of just take a moment, look around, look at everything that's black, kind of keep a running tally in your head. Okay? Now I want you to close your eyes as long as it's safe. And I want you to tell me everything that's purple in the room. Can't do it, can you? I mean, maybe you can think of like one or two things, but you were not focused on finding things that are purple. That's what's happening with your brain on all of your thoughts and beliefs. You are telling your brain, identify evidence of things that are black in the room, right? Identify things in ways money is not abundant. Identify ways in which things are expensive. Identify ways in which money you don't have enough, that you are not enough, right? That you're never going to be good enough, that you're never going to be successful enough. You are identifying and training your brain to look for the evidence to match your beliefs. So if you change your beliefs, and over time, you practice identifying ways in which money is abundant, in which you are successful already, in which you're already heading towards success, that your success is inevitable, that you're further along today than you were yesterday or than you were last year. Then you will start to have a feeling that you want to feel of like, wow, I think I'm pretty proud of myself. Like I've accomplished a lot. I've come really far. I'm really proud of myself, rather than I'm not good enough. I'll never get there. Who am I to do this? Imposter syndrome, all those different things. So that's just kind of my tool for you today. If you like this kind of stuff, this is my jam. And I really want to start doing more of these types of episodes to train your brain. This is heavily what I'll be focusing on in these one-on-one coaching sessions. So I want to hear from you guys on the podcast. If this is something that you're interested in, I would love for you to go leave a review on iTunes with your question. Tell me something you love about the podcast, whatever. Ask any questions in there. We are reading reviews constantly, and we would love for you to ask a question that we can feature an episode on in an upcoming episode. That is all I have for you today. Again, if you want some one-on-one coaching, go ahead and DM me one-on-one coaching or email us hi@thelashpreneur.com and tell us that you're interested in some one-on-one coaching that you heard about on the podcast. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Have a good one.